3.
Welcome back to another episode of Create Your Joy with my beautiful Shruti Goel. And if I am Rihanna Leon. And this time around, we're going into dive into As Real as You and Me by Rihanna. And I can't wait to hear Shruti's opinions on this song because she picked this one. And it's such a beautiful song that I'm just going to go ahead. Shruti, start
Yes.
us off.
This is one of my favorite songs. I discovered it during the pandemic, and it's described as a piano ballad that is co-written by Rihanna and sung in her melodious, beautiful voice for this animation movie by Dreamworks called Home. And so not many people know about this, but we have shared another song from this movie called Feel the Light in a previous episode. And I just find that the songs in this movie are so poignant and thought-provoking for me. And this particular one, came to me at a time when there was so much uncertainty and fear. Many of us can't even quite recapture that feeling anymore of what it felt like in the first few months of the pandemic, when all you knew was that you would hear some news of a person that was relatively young that had died, or an older adult that had moved into a care community somewhere and had passed away shortly thereafter, or children that were getting upper respiratory tract infections and passing away. So it was a really chaotic time. And I found that the sweet and gentle lyrics in this song brought me a lot of comfort, and yet they allowed me to acknowledge the reality of what was going on around me, rather than what my instinct might have been, which was to numb the pain of feeling so much chaos. And I find that this year in 2023, with all the natural disasters going on around us, that this song has become really important for me again, as a way to deal with our external reality and to find our peace with how things happen in our human lives. And so let me dive right into the first stanza here, the first verse. And it says, there could be a freak accident. There could be a fatal disease. And, in this gentle way, so the musicality of the song is very sweet and very slow. It really allows you to sort of walk into, this truth that sometimes can feel so harsh, but it's true. Someone could die in a freak accident. We don't know. We can't choose always the moment of our death. And she's acknowledging, I know we hate to think about it, and that's, I think, more of a societal conditioning, is the fact that, especially when we're young, in our teens and 20s, we just think we're going to live forever. We feel invincible. Our body feels young. Our spirits, are idealistic maybe. And we just feel like it's going to be like this forever. And yet, if we can choose to think about it, rather than hate thinking about it, it can actually be a lot less of a shock for us when the moment does arrive. And this will become the chorus, actually, of the rest of the song. It's as real as you and me. And I love this line because to me, it means that it, as in death, us leaving this earthly plane, is as real as the love that we experienced while we were here. And I think by making it real, we allow it its own place as a part of human life, rather than something like a monster that we're afraid of and that we'd rather not look at, that we deny until the last moment. So anyway, this is my experience of these first few lines, and I just love this song for the way it, in a very beautiful and gentle way, allows us to confront a very important truth about our life.
Wow, the way you describe it is such a beautiful way, and and so gentle. Like even like the song, what came up to me, like when you were speaking and listening to the lyrics again, it was more like a meditation, like easing ourselves into it, to even like you said, where you say it's as real as you and me. It's like, the death is that you allow it.
Mm.
So you allow it to take its place.
Yes.
And I really love that, because you give them a space, another space to become gentle, and not like this monster, this fear, this uncertainty, the words that you use. And it to me was like very like a meditation. Like you actually, if you listen to the song and you close your eyes, it would take you like in a ride, and it calms you down. There's not a sense of fear.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful, beautiful, well said. I really like that. And I'm going to read the second verse where it says, we could all fall down before our Savior could return.
Mm.
I know we hate to think about it, but it's as real as you and me. If I should go, hold my hand. If I should leave, darling, comfort me, please. Oh my God. This verse, it says a lot. I think it's when we're coming into peace, because it's saying when we fall down, because I think there's like, I don't want to call it like test in our experiences, but we have experienced not death necessarily all the time, but when we get ill, then we start thinking in our bodies. How are we taking ourselves? How are we taking care of ourselves? And then even though it's like a little window to reflect on what are we doing in this earth. And of course, other people have, reflection, because deeper reflection, because they have even like a disease or even close to death, but they overcome that and continue to live in. So I think like those are little windows that we're able to peek in and reflect. And when it says before our Savior could return, and when I think about the Savior, I'm thinking that it's before we get there. Like once we pass, our Savior will be there, like in that transition, which is, to me, it could be consciousness.
Yeah.
Before we even realize our Savior is there. And it says, I know we had to think about it, but it's as real as you and me. When I hear you and me together, to me comes to the higher self, which is you, the higher self, and me, the lower self. It's very real, because we have it within us. And if it says, if I should go, hold my hand. If I should leave, darling, cover me, please. And I can see that when we are in that stage, or when we get to that stage, hopefully, we're able to become one with the lower self and the higher self, holding our hands, kind of like guiding us, and letting us know that everything is okay. And we come into peace to go into that transition that we need to go to. And it is so gentle, like you said, it's so gentle. It takes you there.
Yeah.
Like even like the melody takes you there. And one thing also that I wanted to mention when you were describing it, in the first verse, I felt like we have to become friends with fear, the fear of death.
Yes.
And the more we have these conversations, the more we start to pay attention in what we're doing in this life, want to create, what kind of life we want to live in, and how we want to become a service. And I think all those little things will bring you into peace within yourselves. So when you get there, you're able to look back and say, yes, it's okay to let go.
Wow.
So, yeah. I mean, it's such a powerful lyrics.
Yeah. And you articulated it wonderfully. I loved what you said about merging between the higher and lower self, and really, having the support of the higher self as you are transitioning to, who knows, a new phase of life. That's another part of the mystery of life, is
Yes.
that, and the beauty of it is that it doesn't last, you know, and so it should be even more precious and valuable. And
Yes.
yet it is as beautiful a phase in our life, dying should be, as was birth, because it's just these entry and exit points that we can see with our physical eyes, maybe, or our physical bodies. But at the spiritual level, there's often a lot more happening that we're simply, not aware of until we begin to, get into this journey of finding out ourselves and discovering the truth of what our life means, like you were saying. So, and I just wanted to touch on that line, before our Savior could return. And just in the context of our American society, and Christian underpinnings, that the Savior could return, we often have this archetype in our societies where it's like all, and not just in Christian societies, but throughout the world, that there's going to be somehow a savior that comes and saves us from the mistakes that we have made, or from the way that our life has fallen apart. But just like in the movie Harry Potter, he discovers that he was the one that set off the Patronus, this beautiful creature that saved his life. We often come to the realization that we have to become our own saviors. And it brings me back to the point that you were making before about that relationship, nurturing the relationship between the higher and lower self. That's what helps us to become in touch with that part of us that has the same energy as our source, that has the same energy as the savior that we were waiting for. So we're waiting for our own self-awareness to grow.
Beautiful.
That's what comes home to me. And so coming to the next verse, it says, the earth could quake to ruins. We could drift off in our sleep. And so again, in its gentle way, it's telling us all these different ways that someone can pass, and that as many ways as there are to live our lives, so there are ways to leave it. And we know in 2023 how many both natural and man-made disasters, wars, have occurred. And so this is a very real part of our life. This, whether we deny it, whether we hide from it, whether we hate to think about it, it's here, it's in our face. And the fact that it's coming back to the chorus again, it's as real as you and me. It's as real as you and me. I feel that the songwriter really wants us to have this understanding in the depth of our bones, in the depths of our souls, that it's okay to acknowledge that this is where we are headed. One of the things that we know is that the moment we are born, we begin to die.
Beautiful.
And really, this separation that we have around birth and death is actually quite artificial. They're not as separate as they seem to us. And the more we can remind ourselves of how real this is, the transition itself, the less we will want to be unnecessarily attached to when this happens in our own lives. And one great example that I can give here is often with adult children and their parents. We know that our parents are going to be one maybe source of love that we're going to lose in this life. And that it's a natural part of life that this happen. And yet the number of adult children who, if they have denied that this is going to happen someday, will want to take heroic measures to keep their parents with them, even in a state of pain, for even one more moment. And I think that when we're confronting that transition, that end of life, that it is important to take a step back and reflect on, to some degree, how you would like that phase in your life to be. And so I feel really grateful, alongside coaching, of course, we now have access to a whole new profession, which is called death doulas, that whose purpose is to help people transition in a peaceful way. And I've worked as a hospice volunteer, and hospice holds that philosophy as well. It's very misunderstood in many parts of the world, but its very idea is to bring some dignity and comfort to these last days on earth, and a preparation for both the person that will pass away, that will transition, but also preparation for the people that will be left grieving afterwards, and a meaningful way for them to move forward in their life. And I really think that that's what this song is doing in a very gentle way. It's helping you confront it, and yet it keeps going. And so I'm bringing it back to you for the next verse.
Wow, everything that you have said, you explained it so beautifully and so eloquently that I love it, because like you said, the more we confront it, the more we talk about it, and sometimes we're not aware that there's different tools, the techniques that will help you to transition, for the kids and for the parents, as well. And it's just so beautiful to know. I really, really love that. And I really love the fact also that you touch on not being attached. And that's the thing, the more we're able to become aware, like a deeper understanding that, of course, everyone knows that we're going to end at some point. This physical body is going to end at this point. Right. But the more we talk about it, I think the more you become more conscious of how you want to live your life and how you want, as much as you can, to end.
Right.
And that's when you make the changes in your life, or you're trying to see what are the things that you need to change in order for you to get a certain age, as well as you can, physically, mentally, spiritually. So that's like the journey that a lot of people, I consider myself one of them, like I'm taking that journey to look inward. And it takes time, but we can get there. I am so sure.
Yeah.
And the next verse, it says, the ocean crushed the shore and take us down forevermore. I know we hate to think about it, but it's real as you and me. When I listen to this verse, what comes into mind, she brings the shore, the ocean. And I think to me that we're living in the shore as a physical body, because the wave crashes. And when it crashes is when we have an obstacle, when we break down, when we have certain emotions that we're not able to overcome easily. So we crash, but even though we crash, we're not separate from the ocean.
Wow.
And then we come in and up and down, we get up and then we go down, but that's life, because we experience it, we create it, we failing, we succeeding, and it's just an adventure. And then at the same time, you can look back, and when you look back in the moment when you're passing, if we're able to look back, you're able to look back at the ocean, and you're part of the ocean, that you're not dying. It's just this physical body has to stay in this earth because it belongs to earth. But then we're transitioning. And I like to bring in like the butterfly. Like, of course, I don't know 100%, like, okay, yes, you're going to go somewhere and this is what it is. But I feel it within me. I feel that energy, that it just doesn't die. But like the butterfly doesn't know that it's going to turn into a butterfly. Right? And I like to look at it, death like that. it's just the face that we're going somewhere else, which is consciousness. And that's what comes to me when I read that verse.
Yeah.
What do you think, Shruti?
Oh,
What
that was
comes?
beautiful. That was beautiful. And I especially loved how you said that we're never separate from that ocean, that we're part of that ocean. And my thought on that particular line was, that death is just like the tides are. The saying that says, time and tide wait for none. It really brings home to me that particular saying, and the fact that it's inevitable. Just like the tide comes in and recedes and comes in and recedes, so birth happens and death happens. And it's been in this endless cycle for a very, very long time on Earth. And this idea that it takes us down forevermore. To me, that kind of means that it's a conditioning that we hold, that we somehow think that when death is occurring to someone we love, that our life is going to not exist the way it did before. And it's true. Many people grieve not just death, but also transitions of any kind. Think about the parents who will have an empty nest and their child is going off to college, or their child has gotten married and moving to another country, or a change in job, or a loss of some kind. We grieve a lot of different things, but underlying it is this assumption that somehow it's going to bring us down. And yet in reality, sometimes that kind of an ending, that transition, can actually be a clearing of the space for something new to come in instead. So this idea, this line, that it takes us down forevermore, doesn't always have to be our truth. And so, yeah, so I loved especially your connection about that ocean, that, we're part of this ocean. And I loved how you used the analogy with the butterfly, this idea of a transformation. The caterpillar may have no idea what it's supposed to turn into. What if the caterpillar thinks that it's going to die, and then
Yeah.
it dies, but then, yes, it's the death to the caterpillar that generates the life of a butterfly, and it has to be in that void. It has to be in that dark space where it grows and grows and sprouts wings. They're two completely different creatures, when we look at them. So again, and our point in all of this is to share a different viewpoint. You are welcome as our audience to hold your viewpoints on these topics, but we just want to give you some food for thought. We just want to, with the help of these lyrics, help you gently confront this idea in your own life, and to think about these big questions in life that often get lost in the hustle and bustle of our daily existence. And coming to the end of the song, as I said, these are very important lines that are in this chorus. If I should go, hold my hand. And I've got to bring in the self-love perspective here a little bit, which is all about, when you make friends on the different parts of you that are in you, when you integrate with those parts, even the shadow parts of ourselves, the things that we don't want to look at, integrating that actually generates a more sense of wholeness than existed before. And then that's whose hand you're holding. Even if in your physical reality, there's not someone present, when you transition, you feel very held and seen and supported. And as you were saying, Ivania, that in fact, our higher self is there. It's waiting for us to, turn inward rather than getting lost in all of the distractions of the outer world.
Yeah.
And it's never too late to turn inward to make that connection. And if you can do that, then it is what will help you get through this time. It will cover you. It will bring you into a dimension with no time. It will bring you into a dimension where you're free of the bonds that hold us here on earth. So it's a really beautiful, almost philosophical song, I find. And finally, again, it ends with that same line, that powerful, powerful line that says, it's as real as you and me. This ending of our life here. And yet, how magnificent that we don't know what else it could lead to.
Yes.
What else could be there on the other side of it.
Yeah, no, beautiful, well said. And one of the things that I wanted to say and to emphasize, and when you said a time, there's no time and space.
Yeah.
Even when we go to sleep, where's the time?
Yeah.
It's just only in this earth. But I love that. There's no time and space.
Yeah.
That was really, really beautiful. Thank you, Shruti.
Yeah. So with that, we want to bring our episode for today to a close. There were a lot of gems here to think about, to explore, and I hope you'll enjoy listening to this episode and share your thoughts. Give us a like or subscribe if you like our content. And this was our 6th episode. We can't wait to come back with the 7th episode and come back to share another song that inspires us, that makes us think and stand in different viewpoints.
Well said. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.